at the beginning of every hero's journey, there's a call to adventure, and either you can choose to accept that call to adventure or deny it. So, your husband after 35 years has said, that's it. I'll be out by the end of the month. It's over. We'll split everything amicably and fairly, but it's over. That's a call to adventure. Either you can resist, deny it, fight it, flail, lose yourself. Many people never recover. Or you can say, it's a call to adventure. So now the first person to show up is the mentor, a guide, a shaman. And now you travel around the wheel, and at the end you return back. You do the journey, the rupture, the descent into liminal space, the rebuilding of yourself within the cocoon, and then you emerge from the cocoon with wet wings as a butterfly to begin the next half of your life.
Today, we're going to be talking about anxiety, stress, insomnia, worry, procrastination, and self-sabotage, but not from the usual angle of trying to make it go away that you've probably heard about so often. We're going to go somewhere so much deeper. What if some of the symptoms that we'd label as problems are not actually problems? What if they're signals? What if anxiety is not always evidence that something is wrong with you, but sometimes evidence that something inside is really trying to evolve and expand? And I want to say this clearly. This isn't about dismissing mental health struggles, diagnoses, or any of that real need for support, right? We're not talking about dismissal. We're talking about widening the lens. It's about asking what our symptoms may be trying to reveal before we rush in to silence them. My guest today is Dr. Michael Glock. He's a philosopher, futurist, hypnotherapist, and co-founder of JoyMind, one of the largest hypnotherapy platforms in America. He's trained in Jungian and depth psychology and developed hermeneutic hypnosis, which is a framework that blends hypnosis, neuroscience, mythology, symbolic thinking, and storytelling to help people rewrite the unconscious narratives that are shaping their lives. We're going to talk about anxiety as initiation and the unconscious stories that drive burnout and self-sabotage, and why childhood adaptations can become adult operating systems, and how to move from survival mode into self-authorship. We're going to be going deep. All right, Dr. Michael, thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Tansy. I'm delighted. What a wonderful introduction. Yes, everything is true, and please press me and get the answers so that your audience can really truly understand what it is that you've just introduced, and I will explain how it happens and how it works.
All right. Well, let's actually just start with that question right at the heart of this conversation. When someone comes to you with anxiety, insomnia, stress, or self-sabotage, how do you begin to really discern whether it is simply a symptom to manage or an initiation into a deeper transformation?
Okay, so great question. Let me set this up a little bit. I'm a philosopher. I've traveled all over the world, lectured, Princeton, Yale, ETH in Switzerland, London. I'm leaving for London next month. Most people come to me when something is broken or something has ruptured from their ordinary life. So the way that we structure the journey that you work with, when you work with me, is there's an Act 1, an Act 2, and an Act 3. This goes all the way back to Greece and the invention of entertainment, and this 3-act arc, which is part of everything that unfolds in the universe. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end. It can also be understood as birth, death, and rebirth. So how I position this work is when something has broken, when you are experiencing insomnia, anxiety, stress, tension, your job, your work, your relationship, whatever, something has shifted in your ordinary world and you have now ruptured out of it and you descend into a liminal space. And in this liminal space, this is the underworld. This is the world of your dreams. This is the thin membrane between this world and what is out there, the holy other. Carl Jung described this holy other as the collective unconscious, and within the collective unconscious, there are the archetypes and the a priori figures. So the work that you do with me over 3 acts, birth, death, and rebirth, is at the very beginning. I work with a method called hermeneutic hypnotherapy, and the premise of hermeneutic hypnotherapy is that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, by the time you've worked with me, you end up realizing that whatever it is, whatever the issue is that's brought you here, to me, to this sacred space, is a blessing. And it's been now reframed because it actually is the beginning of your initiation. It is the moment of birth, because what you're experiencing is a deep construction that goes all of the way back to your birth. You have mimicked your mother and father. You've gone to school. You wanted to look like everybody else. The world out there hangs by a thin thread. There's a level of toxicity. The simplest way of understanding what happens is that before seeing me, you're basically asleep and you're full of symptomatic conditions. Carl Jung said, and so Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung are the 2 fathers of depth psychology, and Carl Jung said, that which is not made conscious is doomed to live out in the world as fate. And so whatever your issue is, that is your fate. That is the destiny that you're living. And it is, you're experiencing these symptoms, whatever it is, whatever it is. It is this idea that over the decades you have discarded, you have exiled, you have abandoned, you have experienced significant traumas. And this work is about gathering back those fragments, understanding what has happened. Most of us sense a meaninglessness in our life that contributes to the anxiety, to the stress. Is this the right marriage? What has happened to my relationship? Where am I going? Am I really vibing? Most of the people that come and work with me are in midlife. That's the classic midlife struggle. It's the crossroads, and I welcome you to sit with me. One of the things that I say at the very beginning is, do you remember the phrase, or do you know the phrase, when the pupil is ready, the master will appear? Okay, well, hello. And, it's like you're sitting with a master. You've never met anyone like me. And the dialogue is rich and deep. In the first session, most of my clients cry. Some of my clients cry throughout because they suddenly realize that decades have gone by, and why didn't they have this conversation 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago? It's remarkable work.
You mentioned about Carl Jung talking about how our fate, we become and act out our fate based off of what gets stuck in that subconscious, what stays hidden in that subconscious. Does your fate change depending on what you pull out of your subconscious to actually address?
Oh, that's the transformation. So I'm deeply connected to the underworld, to dreams, and we tend the dreams. Most people are not even dreaming. They cannot remember their dreams. They are cut off from their own inner life. So we awaken this reconnection to the body, to the somatic body, to the intelligence of the body. And the dreams, people, the way that they interact with the world is symbolically. They interact with a way in which that they tell stories, share stories, participate in stories, experience stories, and this idea of the unconscious. So the metaphor that I use a lot, let's use biology. Remember Biology 101, the story, the life cycle of the caterpillar? So the caterpillar is born and it has an instinct to eat and eat and eat and just consume, pretty much like you and me and everybody else that was born. They just like consume and they eat and eat and eat from their culture, from their tribe, from their mothers and fathers, from the dominant religion or faith of the household, to their extended community and to the group and to the nation. They just consume and consume and consume. That happens in the first half of life. The caterpillar does that, and halfway through the caterpillar's life, it just cannot eat anymore. It's just consumed so much. It's riddled with anxiety and tension and hopelessness and meaninglessness, and they've chosen the wrong marriage, and maybe it's the second or third marriage, or career, or whatever, or children, or whatever is going on. In the middle of life, the caterpillar cannot eat anymore. And so it weaves itself into a cocoon and it dies. But the truth is, we know it's not dying. It's engaged in metamorphosis. Because inside the DNA and RNA of the caterpillar is a code that says one day in the future you're going to be a butterfly. And this cocoon, inside this cocoon, which is inside the work that you do here with me, or that you do inside hypnotherapy with Joy Mind, inside this cocoon is that you actually begin to dissolve your entire caterpillar body. And it is metamorphosis. And at the end of the sessions, at the end of the group, the package, you emerge in a whole new way. You re-enter your ordinary world, but you are transformed. You have ruptured from your ordinary world, descended into a liminal space where we work with the subconscious, with the unconscious, with the dreams, with the figures. We bring meaning to the meaninglessness of what has happened in the decades before, and we address and reframe the primary wounds and the struggles and the difficulties, because when all of those happened, your mind was not developed. You did not have the experiences, so you made up stories in order to survive. So we address this. We understand why we made those stories up, and what I do is articulate this as an initial operating system that was installed, and I call it OS 1.0. And the journey work that we do together inside the chrysalis of the caterpillar is that we retire. We archive OS 1.0 and we reformat your hard drive, and then the sessions towards the end of the 3-act arc is we install a new operating system 2.0, that allows you to blossom into the next half of your life.
You know, I feel like so many people think I'm going to make a transformation, and they think it's this one and done thing. In reality, as you're talking, oh my goodness, the amount of 3 acts that each one of us has as a human being throughout our entire lives, constantly birth, death, rebirth, over and over and over again.
Yes, indeed.
Oof.
I love this idea. So just to underline what you've just shared, is that this is a lifelong process. agreed. It is a constant journey of this 3-act arc. Everything is born, everything matures, and everything comes to an end. Happens on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, decade by decade basis. Now, there is something else that's going on too, is that at the end of this work, the direction that we're headed is towards mastery and enlightenment. It's towards self-realization. It's towards self-actualization. It is all of the models that you know in the world. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is Sri Aurobindo's work with self-realization. It is Carl Jung's own individuation. It is the developmental human growth and transformation of Erik Erikson and the 7 stages of human development. It's all of those. And at the end of this work, people are totally, amazed. They feel deeply blessed. I have an idea. Let me read you a poem, because I usually read this poem at the end of people working with me, and I have to pull it up, but I'll just keep talking while I pull that up. So this idea is that this is the journey that you're on, from unconsciousness to consciousness, from meaninglessness to meaning, and you become enlightened. You can use whatever word. You become blessed. Okay, that's the poem I'm going to read. But so you have this ability, and let's just use the word enlightenment because it's rich, it's deep. You become enlightened. But so here's the thing. Here's the response to your. Remember the saying, before enlightenment you do the laundry, and after enlightenment you do the laundry. Your life is no different. You still have all of the storms that come in. You still have the kids. You still have your career. You still have that hunger of really finding what it is that you're really good at in the world and plying your trade. You still have all of that, but suddenly what has happened? Here, and let me see if I can articulate that. What has happened is when you first arrived at me, you forgot that you're the captain of your own ship, and you've abandoned your own ship, and you're caught in a tremendous gale, and the storms are blowing, and the sails are torn, and your masts are broken, and I've found you on a life raft, and you've done a mayday call, and you've found your way here, and I've towed you into my marina, and I'm going to rebuild your ship with you. We're going to mend the sails, fix the masts, fix the cracks in the rudder, rebuild the engines, and we're going to rebuild the bridge. And at the end of this work, your hand is on the helm, ready for you to steer into the future. Often you're all strangers, so please just listen to me carefully. What I want to say is, after this work, yes, you're enlightened, but there's still a great deal of work, and life just keeps on happening. Secondly, at the end of this work, you're going to end up being more creative. You're going to be more intuitive. You're going to be sleeping through the night. All of the horrors and terrors and traumas will have been placed aside and will no longer have the grip that it currently has on you. And so, poetry, I often read poetry in all of my work, and I read this poem at the end of a package with a client. Obviously if they've developed, they've grown to this point. So here it is. I sat a solitary man in a crowded London shop, an open book, an empty cup on the marble tabletop, while on the shop and street I gazed, my body of a sudden blazed. In 20 minutes, more or less, it seemed so great, my happiness, that I was blessed and I could bless. This is the outcome of the work that you do here with me and with Joy Mind, is that it is a blessing, and you gain skills, you gain insights, you have tools that you receive that allow you to bless. When you return to the ordinary world of your life, people ask you, where have you been? What have you done? Did you, you look 10 years younger. The weight of the world seems to be off your shoulders. People report that they physically feel lighter. They sleep through the night. All of their worries have disappeared. Now, of course, big caveats underneath. I mean, everybody's unique and different. But the bottom line, the hypnotherapy, and which is one of the tools that I use, it allows the trance state. It uses the trance state to make the mind labile, which means, it's a fancy word, but in the trance state, your mind and all of your thoughts and the way that you think and the stories that you've made up suddenly de-attenuate. They dial themselves down, and the mind becomes labile. It becomes neuroplastic, and it's able to reformat. It's just a very brief moment. It's actually one of the reasons why I love this poem by W.B. Yeats, an Irishman. It seems so great, my happiness, in 20 minutes, more or less. And it's 20 minutes that this hypnotherapy happens. And it always happens at the end of each session. And there's a recording, and then you listen to it. For me, I invite you to listen to it 3 nights in a row. So if you were doing the session with me now, you'd listen to it tonight when you went to bed, and you would literally fall asleep, because my work activates dream time. I was born in Wellington, New Zealand. My best friends were Maoris. I've spent time in Australia with the Aborigines, worked with shaman in the Amazon, and I did some cultural anthropology work with a Western Apache. And so my work is indigenous wisdom. It's myth, it's fairy tale. It is beyond all religions. It goes back to the beginning of time. It goes back to the shaman. It goes back to the elders of the tribe that have known. And actually, here's another thing to understand about me and my work is you cannot really go to anybody within your community to help you figure out what's happened or what's broken or what's wrong, because they are all deeply invested in their perspectives and their group think and their cultural think and such like. So they will just trot out what the normal answers are. So my work, I don't subscribe to the system. I'm a shaman. I live on the outskirts of the village, and you need to travel to me, to the perimeter of your tribe and your community, and you need to sit, and you need to open your ears, and you need to open your heart and become present and follow the instructions. And then weeks later, you emerge as a butterfly with wet wings at the beginning of the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, all this work that you are doing, philosophy, Jungian, psychology, hypnosis, mythology, neuroscience. Well, first off, I just love all this stuff. Just excites me so much. But it excites me. But I want to know, how did you pull the thread of all of these worlds together for you? Why did you pull the thread together?
Okay, so I was born in Wellington, New Zealand. My father was German, my mother Russian. I was an immigrant in New Zealand. I've experienced that entire immigrant construction. I left in my late 20s after building a significant career on multiple levels, production design. I've had many lives already. But I do remember when I was very young, like maybe 11 or 12, I really didn't want to have much to do with my parents because they were, they couldn't even speak English. And Russian was my first language, German second, third was English. I kind of distanced myself, so I took care of myself. I found a book for $1 at a used bookstore, and it was Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols. And I think I was 12 years old, and I just devoured it. My mother also was very bright. My grandmother homeschooled me. I was 3 years ahead in all of the classes in my early education. There was philosophy books. But when I was like early, my mother said, "Oh, Michael, just my deepest worry is that you're going to become a philosopher."
Oh, no.
And psychology shows us that whatever we rebel against, whatever we push up against, we compensate, and our life tends to become that. So, of course, I have gravitated towards philosophy, to understanding why we're here. How did we turn out this way? What are the possibilities? And I am a deep believer in this idea of non-specialization. There's this whole idea, the monocultures, you plant the same seeds over and over again, and eventually the land can no longer support that. I really believe that, and depth psychology is very much engaged in this idea that everything has a voice, and that the second half of life is about living life symbolically versus the first half of life, which is very much Sigmund Freud's work in ego building and finding out who you are, what you're good at, enrolling somebody to believe in you, to pay you for what you're good at. You find your significant other, you get a family together or not, you figure out how to pay the mortgages and insurances and make that work, and you push and you build and you make your place. But then in the second half of life, you realize that everything's talking to you, that everything is synchronistic, that there's no need to rage against the world anymore, because how dare you go on about that it should be some other way? The universe is showing up perfectly. So the right attitude is, oh, well, what is this disaster attempting to tell me? What's it like? Who's visiting now? And the way that I operate is, no matter what's going on, it's like I treat it as if it's a dream, and we tend the dream, and we ask simple questions like, who's visiting now? So, your significant other just told you that, your 20 years of marriage is over and they're leaving at the end of the month. It's like, yes, it's totally appropriate to freak out and to fall apart. But then you come do this work, and we dig into that, and we begin to understand why that's happening and what is happening.
Well, Dr. Michael, you talk about these unconscious narratives. You've talked about this a few times now. I'm curious, let's dive a little deeper here. What are these unconscious narratives, and how do they quietly start to shape the way that we see ourselves, our relationships, success, money, creativity, all the things?
Okay, that is a very good question. How can I most clearly answer that? Perhaps. All right, so perhaps let me share a personal story. So I'm answering your question about how do unconscious narratives show up in the world, and how do you address them, and how do you move through them? Okay, so I've shared that I was an immigrant born in New Zealand, Russian mother, German father. I didn't want to have much to do with them because they were immigrants and they couldn't speak the language, and I wanted to be just like everybody else and dress like I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be the odd one out. That's what every child learns early on. So I would arrange my own zoological trips. And one Saturday there was a trip, and I was, I'm 12 or 13 years old. And my mother asked me in the morning, do you want me to make some egg sandwiches or here's some water, here's a backpack. No, I don't need anything. So I left. 5 miles later, hiking around the coast of Wellington, New Zealand to watch the seals give birth. All of the people, all of the kids are with their mothers and fathers, and they've all got their supplies. And I arrived totally thirsty, hungry, exhausted, and I figure out what I can do is I can go around and I can collect little driftwood and bring it with open hands to the people that are making their little barbecues for their lunch. And I'm too shy to ask. I'm too shy to say, I screwed up. I don't have any water. I don't have any food, And somebody eventually took pity on me and gave me some food. But my point is, 30 years later, that's still the chip on my shoulder. I'm going around. I've now immigrated to America, and I'm going around to all of the jobs, and it's kind of like I got little sticks of kindling. Give me a little bit. It's like I'm too shy to ask for what I'm worth, my intelligence, my capabilities. I never really make it. I'm on 28 startups later. I go do a hypnotherapy session, and the hypnotherapist says, "Oh, Michael, let's go back to that." So we recreate that whole scene. Next minute, she says, "Oh, do you hear that seagull in the sky?" And I say, "Well, no, I don't. But yeah, no, there it is. Oh, you've suddenly become the seagull, and now you look down and look at that little boy at 13, sort of hungry and desperate. And why didn't you just say hello to him and say, you know what, it's okay. You're going to make it because I'm me 40 years later, and we made it. We made it." And so that's the simple way. And everybody's got that story. Let me share another story. It's like a composite. But okay, so mid-50s woman, married for 35 years, incredibly successful. Husband says it's over. She comes and sits with me, and she realizes that she gave up on herself. She gave up her career, her college degree, what she really wanted to do in the world. She did everything that he wanted. She raised the children. She lost her voice. And when she first came to me, it was difficult for her to sort of speak and breathe. And it was like, and then she would choke up, and at the end of the work with me is that her voice is clear, and she's clear that she gave up on herself, and it had nothing to do with him, the relationship, whatever. And the relationship is perfectly complete, and there's a completion, and there's a meaningfulness that has now occurred.
Yeah. And so, okay, Dr. Michael, let's pull everything together now. So we're talking about these narratives, these unconscious narratives, which can lead to feelings like anxiety, right? Like all of those emotions that are faced forward from these unconscious narratives that are being stuffed down and pushed back, like we talked about earlier, right? But so you have the unconscious narrative, you have the emotion, let's just say anxiety, that is pushing through right now. You know something is trying to evolve. You know this, right? But what if you're in the middle of an anxiety crisis and you're not feeling evolved at all? You're feeling like your world is falling apart. How do you navigate that?
Okay, well, there's many tools and procedures and techniques, depending on what works for you. It's like I often suggest getting a rubber band and sticking it over your left wrist. And when you're in throes of that incredible grip of emotion and feeling, you just grab that rubber band and snap it, make it hurt a little bit and snap yourself out of it. And I embed that within a hypnotherapeutic trance. And then there it is, boom, you've snapped yourself out of it. Or you get yourself in that moment, boom, the whole thing just explodes. Just name 3 things in front of you: keyboard, road, microphone, monitor, boom. It's like you
Yeah.
can't do multiple things at once. You have ways and tools to just snap yourself out of it. And then, I talk a lot about loving kindness and the loving kindness meditation. And when, look, most of us have never been taught to say to ourselves, I like that. When something good happens, you say, oh, pat yourself on the back. It's like, oh, I like that. Oh, I'm going to make myself a nice little lunch, or have a little avocado toast, or I'm going to take myself out to a coffee, All we do is we just go on and on about all of the tragedies and everything, and we enroll. And it's like, look, here's the secret. Basically, everyone's in a trance. And the work that I'm doing here with you is I'm disconnecting you from the unconscious trance that you're in. Here's another example. So, okay, basically everyone is deeply embedded in their own habitual routines. Psychologically, this is how human beings are wired. It's fight or flight. And so you've done something once and you've got to figure out whether or not it is dangerous or whether it's pleasurable. And once you've figured out what it is, it's like then you do the same thing over and over again because you know what the likely outcome is of that transaction, of that interaction. So we are habitual creatures, and we've just learnt that, and that is hypnosis because we've repeated it over and over. And so now it's the rut of the wagon wheels, and all of the wagons that follow that trail to, the west. So one of the mechanisms that I use is I ask, let's do it with you, work with me here.
Okay.
Okay. So do you sometimes do grocery shopping?
Of course. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So tell me the grocery store that you usually go to.
I usually go to one called Giant.
Giant or Giants?
Giant.
Giant.
No S. Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming that you have to hop into your vehicle and drive there?
Yes.
Okay, so hop into your vehicle and drive there. Sometimes I invite my clients to just close their eyelids because when their eyelids are closed, it's kind of like you sink into it a little bit more. So just imagine you've hopped in, you have a to-do list, you're on your way to Giant, you hop into your vehicle, you drive there. There must be a car park in the front, correct? You park your vehicle, you walk up to the front door of Giant. Yes, see that? Okay, now you walk through that threshold, like from the outside inside to Giant. You've walked through that threshold. Which way do you usually turn?
Left.
Okay, is it possible for you to turn right or to go straight ahead?
I can't really turn right, but I can go straight ahead.
Okay, I invite you to go straight ahead, and now it's different than what you've always done before. And I want you to now just open your eyelids, open your eyelids now. Very good. Come back to me and go straight ahead into Giant and open your eyes and have a look at stuff. And I want you to find something that's just ridiculous for you to buy. Like, I don't know if they have socks, but just imagine they had socks or something else that you don't need. Something inexpensive, and you buy it, and now you come home and I invite you to put those socks into the freezer. And then, if you've got a husband or you've got a family or whatever, a couple of days later, so there's a shriek from the kitchen and, what are these frozen socks doing? And you laugh, and then you share the journey that you're on because you're on a program to break habits. And this whole story now is going to live with you for the rest of your life. And it becomes a form of hypnotic entrainment that supports you in breaking the habits. And now, next time you go, I invite you to drive a different way. I invite you to everything that you do, start doing things differently. In my work, I talk a lot about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And at the beginning of every hero's journey, there's a call to adventure. And either you can choose to accept that call to adventure or deny it. So, your husband after 35 years has said, that's it. I'll be out by the end of the month. It's over. We'll split everything amicably and fairly, but it's over. That's a call to adventure. Either you can resist, deny it, fight it, flail, lose yourself. Many people never recover. Or you can say, it's a call to adventure. So now the first person to show up is the mentor, a guide, a shaman. And now you travel around the wheel, and at the end, you return back. You do the journey, the rupture, the descent into liminal space, the rebuilding of yourself within the cocoon, and then you emerge from the cocoon with wet wings as a butterfly to begin the next half of your life. Mm-hmm. And it has everything to do with being in a trance and getting out of the trance that you're in. It's reconnecting your soul to who you were really meant to be. Because the truth is, Tansy, you've been constructed. You think you're free. You think you have all of these unique and original ideas, but you're just doing it whatever your mother and father sort of instilled in you. We are mimics. That's how we learn. So this work,
and that's on a deeper level. If you even think about the consistent conditioning that you get every single day just by looking around at all the marketing that's going on, if you even just look at that is on such a surface level. This is so much deeper that we literally have been trained since the moment that we were brought into, that we even were a thought in the womb.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. It's, people describe this work as like you wake up and it's almost like you've been asleep your whole life. And everything begins to change. So, yeah, it's remarkable work. I mean, let me just say a couple of things, Every symptom that you experience is carrying a story and a message. And what we're doing is we're unpacking that story and that message. And we do all sorts of things like, we do Gestalt work. So, okay, let's just do that again. So just share something with me that troubles you or there's an issue that's been there, lifelong for you. I'll show you how it works.
Okay. I'm going to say that I know one of my core wounds that I have always been that I'm always constantly working with or trying to improve is my sense of worthiness.
Okay. Your sense of worthiness. Now just check into your body where that lands. Where is that sense of worthiness in your body? Where do you feel it?
Right in my gut, more in like the sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, more sacral chakra.
Okay. So go there, and let's imagine that it is an entity. It's a being of some sort. Let's give this, what is it that you said? Self-worth?
Yeah, worthiness. Yeah.
Okay. So worthiness, let's give this worthiness a name, like as if it's a character, as if it's an entity, as if it's a being and it's in your sacral chakra. What would be a name for this?
Um, hmm. Uh, uh,
Go on, go on.
I don't even
Go
know. I don't
deep.
even know. I don't even know.
Okay, just make something up.
Let's just call it. Let's just call it. Ruthless Ruth.
Okay, ruthless Ruth. Okay,
Yep.
so all right, so just imagine ruthless Ruth is right there, right now. Okay, and now give ruthless Ruth a voice. What does ruthless Ruth at this very moment want to share with you? Now, have ruthless Ruth talk to you right now in her voice as if this is real. And just notice what's happening right now and the feeling that you're experiencing.
Mm. You don't know what you're talking about. You never know what you're talking about. How could you possibly know what you're talking about? You're just a little girl. That's all that you are.
Okay. Okay. How old are you? How old are you? How old is that little girl?
I am I am about 8.
Okay. All right. Go to 8. What's the context? What was your life like at 8? What was going on? What's the context at 8 that ruthless Ruth just says this? What's happening at 8?
Well, first off, there was so much self-discovery, but there is one picture, one image of me that pops into my mind when you ask me that. And that is me standing there in this picture with my hands crossed and just irritated and like my head's down and my long straight brown hair is just kind of over my face. And I know that at that point I was trying so hard to understand my emotions and to really be able to get through and navigate some of the frustrations that I would feel and the quick senses of overstimulation and anger that would pop up. Yeah, yes.
Very, very well articulated. So just hold on to that for a moment. You're 8 years old and you are sitting there like, standing there, you have hands clenched and you're just like totally trying to manage everything, and self-worth and understanding it all. Okay, so may I ask your age right now?
I'm 48.
Okay, so here, look, let's do a thought experiment. Let's just to do a thought experiment, Zen beginner's mind, let go. The expert will never learn anything new. So just pretend like, you're at the beginning again. You're listening to things for the first time. Open your ears, open your heart, stay connected to this 8-year-old. You just said what, you're 48?
Yep.
Okay, you're 48. All right, so let's do a thought experiment. A thought experiment, comes from science. Scientists, they invent a hypothesis, then they invent an experiment. They run the experiment produces data, and then they take that data and they match it against the hypothesis. And if it's true, they all go to the pub, have cheers, and then they hand that experiment off to somebody else. They get the same result, and suddenly that's the truth. That's science. That's how the world works. That's proof. A thought experiment is an experiment that perhaps can't be done yet, doesn't have the equipment, or it's just in the mind. So let's just do a little thought experiment in the mind. Okay. You've told me that you're 48 years old, yes? Okay. Now, we talked to Ruthless Ruth, right? She said, oh my goodness me, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, you're an imposter. It's like, come on, right? That's Ruthless Ruth, right? Then we went to 8 years old because there was a connection. There was an imprint. There was a cord that connected Ruthless Ruth into this feeling in your solar plexus to a physical stance, and you attempting to connect with your emotions and your growth and you growing up, and you were like irritated. And so go back to that 8 years old, right? So now let's do the thought experiment. The thought experiment is, listen to me carefully. open your ears and open your heart, listen to me and let go of everything that you know and believe in, and the fact that we're in a podcast, let it all go, right? Let it all go. No, seriously, listen to me. Here's the thought experiment. Here's what I propose. Tansy, you are not 48 years old. You are an 8-year-old with all of those feelings, and you're still existing in the world as that 8-year-old. You've never grown up. You never matured. You did not initiate. There's no mechanism in our culture that initiates girls into women. It is time now for you to let go and understand that that 8-year-old, yes, had all of those things. But the 8-year-old now no longer has the skills and the ability to function in the world as you are here now at 48. You're a remarkable, extraordinary human being, pushing the boundaries of insight, communicating to others about what the possibilities are. And yet, most of the time, you are talking to them out of this 8-year-old. It's time for you to grow up. And now gently, I'm going to 3, 2, 1, 3, take a deep breath into your body, 2, and now 1, just flutter your eyelids and just come back to me. So now just let that sit. Let that sit. Because what that has now done is opened up a great deal of work. You might, I recommend to all of my clients to start a journal, a notebook, or a diary on the first session that they have with me. If they're with me for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 24 weeks, use that journal, document what is happening. I would suggest, invite you to do that, is go back to that 8-year-old. Think through what all of those feelings, the context.
I could feel myself when I had my eyes closed. I could feel myself expanding and pulling away from that connection to that little girl, and not in a disconnecting way, just a freeing of.
Yes, and honoring.
Yeah, and
It's
honoring.
an honoring.
Yeah.
And it's a
Wow.
release. And sometimes we're incredibly stubborn. So within the trance state, we go do, when you build a building, and this is another metaphor I use a lot. It's like we're building a new house for you to live in. We are building a new house for you to live in.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, you buy the block of land, and then, you get the money to build the house and get the architect to build the model. And then there's the ceremony where you cut the ribbon. So often we go do that ceremony and we cut the cords to these old stories, to these old wounds, and finally let them go. And the truth is, we've all got these psychic cords going everywhere to all of us. The first love. Oh, I'll never find a love that's like that first love. And so, yet you've been married for 20 years. So it's an amazing work, and I thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, Dr. Michael, this was amazing. There is so much we could have dove into. My goodness, this was amazing. As we wrap it up today, where can people find you? What would you like to share with us so that people can get easier into your world?
Okay, so I'm the co-founder of the largest hypnotherapy platform in America and Canada now, and you can connect to my team through joymind.com/energyfix. It's as simple as that. You can work with anyone from my team. You can work with me. It's a free consultation, and I welcome you. I welcome you to the next phase of your life.
As always, I will have all of those links down in the show notes to make sure that you can easily get into Dr. Michael's world. Do you have any last words that you would like to lay on the hearts of the listeners for today?
Yeah, let me just finish with a very simple, quick poem. 40 years ago, I spent some time with David White. Uh, and I'm reading you this poem to close because this is what we're delivering. This is what happens. This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000.
Mm. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for bringing your heart here to this show. I appreciate you so much.
Bless you, Tansy. Bye-bye.
For everyone listening, if something in this episode landed for you, I hope you give yourself just a little bit of space to get curious, not to diagnose yourself and not to overanalyze every feeling, and definitely not to make your anxiety another project for you to feel like you need to get perfect. Just to ask yourself, what might this be trying to show me? And until next time, keep spreading that beautiful energy you were born to share.